Hello, fifth graders. Mr. Wayner here. I'm just making a video here to go over the ideas that we talked about in class today, specifically rainbow factors and finding factors of any given number. So this video is meant to show the strategy of rainbow factors and a couple of problems that will help you solve your own problems at home. Now, the first problem that I'd like to do is finding the factors of 20. Now, we talked about we always want to start with the number itself multiplied by 1 because the number 20, or whatever our number may be, whether this was 60 or 80 or 12 or 5, this number times 1 will always equal itself. So I'm going to put a 1 on this side and a 20 on the other. Now, our goal is to make these numbers as close to each other as possible. So my recommendation or my strategy is always to start with the 1 and then to go up by one digit at a time and say, well, one number higher than this, so would 2 times a certain number equal 20? Well, because of my multiplication facts, I know that 2 times 10 is 20. Now, my next question is 3. Is 3 times something 20? Now, there's a couple of different approaches that you can take. You could either say, I could count up by 3s and count 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, and find that there isn't an option. Or I could think in my mind, what would get me close to 20 if I multiplied by 3? 3 times 6 is 18. Well, 3 times 7 is 21. So we could not find a combination. So I would erase the 3, and I'd move on to my next number. The next number would be 4. Is 4 times something 20? Well, I know in my mind that 4 times 5 is 20. So this is a factor pair together. Remember, we defined a factor as a number that when multiplied equals a given number, and a factor pair as two factors that multiply together to equal a given product. Now, in this case, there are 3 different factor pairs. How many factors are there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, when writing out the factors, we just write in order. 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, and 20. And that covers all the factors. So at the end, we know for sure, without a doubt, that there are 6 factors for the number 20. Now that I've gone in detail through the strategy, I'm going to do 2 more practice problems, one of which will be on your homework, the other will not. The first number that I'll show you is 16. Remember that when we look to find factors, we always start with the number itself multiplied by 1. In this case, 1 times 16. As before, we always try to create these numbers, or we always try to move these numbers closer and closer together. Starting at 1, I'm looking to see what is the next number up from 1, which is 2. Now I ask myself, and I'm thinking out loud here, 2 times what equals 16? I know that 2 times 8 equals 16, so those are both factors together. Now I look at 2, and I say, what is the next number bigger than 2? And I would say 3. Now, does 3 times something equal 16? No, it doesn't, unfortunately. 3 times 5 is 15, and 3 times 6 is 18. So 3 does not work. But we move to 4. Now 4 times 4 is 16. So they are factor pairs together. Now there's one important thing, and we mentioned this in class today. When there are two factors that are both the same, when writing out what the factors are, we don't write them twice. We just write them one time. So below, when writing the factors, we just write 1, 2, 4, 8, and 16. That's the first problem. Now the second problem, 28, I'm going to kind of zip through this. 28, we always start with 1 times the number itself, so 1 times 28. 2 times what is 28? 2 times 14 is 28. Now a little hint, something that I forgot to say in class today, but is very important. If you ever have an even number, it's always divisible by 2. So in this case, I didn't need to think is it divisible by 2? The question I was asking, what is, when I divide 28 divided by 2, what is it? And I know that it's going to be a whole even number. I continue on, and 3 times a number isn't 28, because 3 times 9 is 27, and 3 times 10 is 30. 4 times, let me change my marker here. 4 times what is 28? Well, 4 times 7 is 28. They are factor pairs together. Now, in between the 4 and the 7, what whole numbers do I have? I have the number 5 and I have the number 6. Let's check these two numbers here to see if either one of those numbers are factors of 28. 5 times something, does that equal 28? No. And just like Evan said today in class, and just like any student might think in their mind, 5 times something has to end with a 5 or a 0, and this ends with an 8. So we figured out that 5 is not a factor. And what about 6? 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 4 is 24, so 6 is not a factor as well, because nothing times 6 equals 28. So when writing my factors below, I have 1, 2, 4, 7, 14, and 28. If you still have any additional questions, you have my phone number, 616-212-7413. Feel free to give me a call, or you can shoot me an email, which might be easier, at kweiner@kcsa.org. I hope this video helps, and let me know if you have any questions.